Welcome to the East Plainfield Township Public Meeting. All participants are now informed that this meeting is being recorded. This meeting is also being offered virtually utilizing Zoom, which is a cloud-based platform for remote video and audio conferencing. The Zoom application is free to the public. The general public is therefore able to join the meeting by connection through the internet or by calling in by phone. The public is also able to observe the meeting on the Township's YouTube channel. Please continue to check the Township website calendar for any updates related to these public meetings. Agendas for these public meetings will also be available on the Township's website. Please be reminded that this meeting is being video and audio recorded and will be posted to the Township's YouTube channel for viewing. The meeting will now proceed with the chairman calling the meeting to order and identifying all other members present in the meeting room and those joining the meeting via Zoom. The chairman will then confirm those members joining by Zoom can be heard.
Good evening. Like what she said, I will not identify everyone in the room. I identify people at this table. My far left is John Thompson, John Blowers, Sarah Ryder, who was our vice chair. I'm Randy Patterson, chair, and Ryan Martin is absent today. And Jacob Bowen is our director of planning and our zoning officer, and Lee Obitz is our administrative assistant. And with that, I'll call the meeting to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under indivisible with liberty and justice for all. Okay, in your packet you received by email was the minutes of the July 14th meeting. Were there any corrections or changes to those minutes? If not, a motion to approve.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes for the July 14th regular meeting of the Board of Planning Commission. Sorry, the Planning Commission.
There's a second. Motion by John and a second by Sarah. Any further conversation? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So we have no old business to deal with tonight. We have one item of new business, and then we do have another item of discussion later on in the meeting. So we'll move to new business. It's land development plan number 2026-17, which is actually a text amendment being submitted by the Lancaster County Housing and Redevelopment Authorities to allow the adaptive reuse of hotels as a multifamily dwelling. So if you could introduce yourself, please, and the floor is yours.
Good evening. My name is Charlie Sir. I'm attorney with Stevens and Lee. I'm representing the Redevelopment Authority of the County of Lancaster. And with me is Justin Eby, Executive Director of the Authority. I'm sure most of you know who he is. We were here for a text amendment regarding an adaptive reuse of a hotel and or motel, which would then be set up as a conditional use within the C2 and C3 zoning districts. We worked with staff on the language of the ordinance, as well as some of the particular conditions that would be satisfied for the conditional use on something we're doing. Basically, it's a recognition that there are some underutilized properties along the Route 30 strip. Certainly within your comprehensive plan, the draft that you go through that's published specifically recognizes that there's some reuse of these motels or hotels by the appropriate entity. You go through that to have housing opportunities, affordable housing opportunities, not just generally open, linearly could be rented, but through important services such as the redevelopment authority and the related entities could provide going through there. We have limitations on here. We cannot have more than 50 dwelling units going through that. You need to have separate bathroom facilities. There could be some kitchens involved in there. There's common areas on here. I believe the key here is that there has to be an associated entity which will provide the services that are required for the people that are living in there, such as the authority, or it could be another nonprofit entity that could come in and provide the necessary supportive services to the people who are living on the site. pedestrian information on there, public transit route, distance, parking on here, public water and sewer. So that's pretty much what the ordinance would do. Again, it's a conditional use. We think it implements the comprehensive plan, at least the draft that we talked about. I've done a lot of these in other municipalities, have never come across a comprehensive plan, which is right on point. Where we seem like we're truly implementing what you guys are looking forward to do in that area. So with that, questions about the program, what they're looking to do, we'll adjust. Answer any questions you have.
Good evening. County Redevelopment Authority Housing Authority has been working with the township over many years. We really started focusing on folks living in hotels through the Homelessness Coalition coming to our agency, along with the housing rental moratorium that happened COVID, housing homeless individuals in hotels and so forth. We've been also working with the township on some hotels and work that the supervisors also just talked about at their meeting recently. And so we identified, been looking for the last couple of years at opportunities that might arise to hotels and motels into housing. And this would be a cheaper, faster way of increasing our housing units, both transitional and traditional housing types. So we do have that's under agreement that we'd have to go approved by the supervisors, come back and explain some of the programming. But the programming in general, we work with other nonprofit service that would provide support services to individuals. So folks that are transitional housing, trying to get them kind of moving forward into more traditional housing, then also other regular single room occupancy or efficiency type units to support. We have a lot of good agencies here in the township that are providing supportive services. We probably will find some opportunities in the future to work with them, including the families that are living in hotels already as well. So really, we had a staff member part of the whole comprehensive plan with you guys. We've worked with the township on various blighted and underutilized property. So we're really excited that this is a consideration to do here in East Lapeer.
Just for clarity, it's 50 units in a building. It's not 50 units within the districts and cement plus.
Yep. I believe the staff identified about 18 properties that would.
Yeah, so we kind of looked at, we have a list of hotels based on number of rooms, and this lined up, these two zoning districts is just pretty much Lincoln Highway. It is all Lincoln Highway. So we wanted to look at balancing, okay, we don't want every hotel in township to be really eligible to change, our tourism, things like that. So we identified that under 50 dwelling count, it would only leave about 18 hotels eligible ever to be converted that are existing. So that's part of that reason.
And how many hotels are there in the C2 and C?
Yeah, I want to say it was 30, it's somewhere between 30 and 40.
So it's probably half those that would be eligible for this.
A little bit under half,
Okay.
yeah.
Focus would be on hotels within that 50 unit number as opposed to a larger hotel that you would have to break off.
Correct. Yeah, I think it's more manageable, especially with federal or state resources. Bring it.
Knowing where you are, is there any expectation that you would have any use on the ground floor?
Could be considered depending on the building or the property or the need, or it could be some kind of like social services or other office space that is addressing a community need.
Thanks, Justin, for sticking with this. I mean, it really is something that we talked about a number of years ago. I'll lose track, it's probably 10 years, but we had a facility out there that we had, I don't know how many times we sent Lafayette Fire Company. And finally, the evening that we had to vacate, dozens of families with little kids with stuffed animals and lunch boxes and all kinds of, family possessions that were telling the board at that time that we've got a problem. We've got people living in this already. And the extension cords to hot plates in the hallways, and then we had something at a washing machine and a dryer, and it was plugged in there, and then that started a fire. It was just one thing after another that we just kept seeing. We're just putting our head in the sand. And, I know there have been concerns, throughout the community expressed then and even now, of the multifamily housing that we're inviting into the community. It's already here. The need is already here. We're just doing a poor job as leaders if we just stick our head in the sand and ignore it. And, to know that the community has come forward with the draft comp plan that calls this out, obviously, is a consistent message that we've been sending for years. I think the way that the text amendment is written captures, I think some of the concerns that might be there. But whether we do something or not, whether this actually gets stamped and the board moves forward with the comp plan and everything else is to be seen. But the problem will go away. The challenge isn't going to go away. People aren't going to somehow find a small 325 square foot apartment that works for them. I have a couple of apartments that I rent out, and one is 625 square feet. Single female lives there. She just loves it. And she has told me many times, gosh, if my friends could find places like this, it would really work for us. It just doesn't exist. Well, how about 325 square feet? Because it's better than a cardboard box or somebody sleeping in a tent in Flory Park, which we know we've all had that, many times. I think it's great. I applaud it. Thank you, Justin, for sticking with this, and helping to partner with both the community organizations and the township on this. So.
My only question is, would transitional housing and more traditional housing, would that be mixed together in the same unit? So maybe if a family wants that here and someone who needs transitional housing be right beside them.
We would have to figure out how, like, it could be one thing or another. It all depends. We have so many housing needs that it's going to be difficult to just say this is all going to be single individual. This is going to be all for the school district and all the kids. That I think we're to kind of do this pilot, see what works. There will be support services, so it's getting the same. Some may need more than here. So yeah, you might have in the same floor that turns over 3, 6 months, 9 months, another one that's your lease.
And there'd be services on site that would make sure that everybody's safe.
Yeah, some shifts, it could be 2 case managers, be some kind of probably third party of our organization, more on the property real estate and acquisition than providing services ourselves. So it would be teaming up with other agencies that are doing this now already.
It's maybe a silly question, but you brought up budget, and that brought up a question that was in my head, which is how is all this paid for?
Sure. So we are looking at a combination of some low interest loans, some traditional bank loans, and federal and state resources, and local foundation funds as well.
I apologize. I meant, how is the investment recouped? So you guys are putting in the money to rehab these places. How are you?
Yeah, so there will be rents. There'll be tiered rents. That's the whole goal. Some of them might be some project-based vouchers. So someone doesn't have an income, they are literally homeless or previously homeless, or they're on SSI, they're not making it up. There's so many emails these days that I SSI, but it's just not enough to. So yeah, just a tier that also works in cash flow to operate into the property as well, and to pay off some of the property debt that's on. Yep. So each one's going to be unique depending on the size of hotel and how much work needs to be done to get it up to residential code.
And each hotel would have its own set of certs there that would oversee all of that stuff that you just talked about. Okay, thanks.
I have a couple questions. How do you identify like the families and the individuals who are going to live in this? Like, how do you choose and select them?
It all depends on the system. We could, couple agencies that are here already, 1, 5, 10 units to help support the program we have, so they already have. So yours could be just a traditional stuff where we puts the unit, work in. You have an application to get the unit. And there'll be qualifications.
Okay, okay.
So that brings any one of these properties, if we have some sort of state resources, usually can't go above, 80% anyway, but it could go up to unit mix and resources we bring.
And then so just for educational purposes for me, like, so if there's someone homeless, how do you identify that homeless person and try to get them some housing? How does that work?
And so there's an overall
Loaded question probably, right?
system that the team helps try to meet. There's so many.
Yeah.
So you have coordinated entry, 211, someone calls, gets assessed what their housing needs are. Last year, so this June, we had about a little over 9 people that entered the homeless system looking for help. Certain others, matched up with family members they have to, or they moved back to shelter, get rental assistance program. So there's a lot of triage that between sub-street outreach teams that go over to the county that find people or connect. Sometimes it takes weeks, months, years to make a good connection and get someone into housing. So there's a whole robust system, and a lot of that's driven by policies into the county to address those.
So there'll probably be a lot of demand, I would imagine, for.
The low barrier shelter in the city that we built a month ago, 600 people stay at least one night. Average nights are starting to go down, but they're around 70. And I think 70% didn't have income. So that we got to get them income. So yeah, the numbers, and that's not just Lancaster County, the state, regionally, a lot of issues with homelessness right now. So this hopefully helps just provide some supports, some new housing units, and starts addressing some of the issues we have.
And my other question is, have you done something like this in other parts of the county? Like
so this level, we did support a motel renovation up in Ephrata a couple of years ago, like Cloister Heights. We're partnering with other agencies that are taking buildings and converting into housing, schools into housing. But generally, this is the first conversion of hotel to housing that I can remember in 10 years in the county.
Great. That's all I have.
And my only other comment is for John and Sarah in particular, the linkage of supportive services, particularly on site when you can do that, has been the success of many projects in Lancaster County. That's probably one of the key elements of a person's ability, especially if it's transitional housing, to transition out into regular housing. So I was glad to see that the supportive services was a piece of this.
There will be, you cannot do a project in Texas unless there's some means of supports.
A little bit to working in code enforcement for the past year in the township. There's a number of smaller motels along Lincoln Highway where people are living permanently, and we deal with some of the code concerns and complaints where a lot of these properties are owned by people that are out of the area, a little bit difficult to deal with. There's been a lot of challenges. So the hope is working with this ordinance is that there will be more responsible owners that have some services to help kind of alleviate those problems like John was mentioning, where the buildings are no longer up to code, kicked out. That's something we don't want to do.
I remember when we sent our companies in one night and the manager of the facility couldn't really speak Same language as many of the residents. He didn't quite know what was going on. He expressed shock that he didn't realize things were happening. Whether that was true or not, the reality was there was no one providing some sort of intervention services, someone who understood what was actually happening and could communicate with, public authorities. And again, that will just continue if we do nothing about this. So let's at least step it up and try and address one small portion of it all.
Frank, I mean, some people are just being taken advantage of, to be honest, because they're in difficult situations. They can't get a lease.
This board knows that I'm not a fan of text amendments. But I'm not a fan of text amendments that identify a very specific piece of property. This text amendment addresses a broader area of our zoning ordinance and of our community, and clearly meets a community need, not identified not only by the housing study that was done, but as Charlie said, the comprehensive plan draft that we'll talk about this evening. Thank you for continuing to work on that. And this from the public.
I have a question. Actually, if you don't mind, I'm Nick Wagner. I'm new to this whole system learning. I know you see me here a lot, just lurking. This is one of the first new things that I felt I need to speak up on, and actually sitting here listening to everyone. Some of my concerns have already been addressed. Look, that you addressed the 50 number. I was wondering where that came from. And Jacob, it sounds like this is currently happening, and I know it's a nuisance hotels. It sounds like this is targeting. I live very close to one, and I'm bumping the tents, and I recently had to call for someone sleeping in front of my house, which just to get them the help necessary. I want to see improvement, but I also am concerned with replacing one light nuisance with another. And my questions, a little bit of notes here, if you don't mind me checking. Is there going to be 24/7 on-site property management? And what kind of security measures, fencing, et cetera, encompasses these new properties so as not to replace X with Y, the same thing?
Generally, it depends on the property. There's upgrades to landscaping and fencing and that kind of thing. As far as like use and stuff, so one, as a public agency, we will be required to work with the township to address any deficiencies on the property, the units, to make sure they're up to code. As well as we'll have yearly leases, which you are able to evict people that do not adhere to the policies of the property. And maybe not in every situation or adaptive use, but there most likely be at least 2-3 shifts of on-site supportive services, some of their potentially 24/7. Most of our properties have it's control cameras in there.
You're against, I don't want to see an improvement. And my biggest worry is my kids, and then we're on one property, one of the nuisance hotels. And it's really the scariest thing in my life. So I want to see improvement, and will it be exterior site standards? In that parking lots, disabled vehicles, excessive dumpsters, it's just very vague in the text itself, but there's not too much coverage right now. I know Sheriff Serby, there's different authorities between a tenant and someone that's staying in a hotel. I don't want to make it harder for the police force to enforce. I mean, we have human trafficking, drug use all the time. I want that to be part of your system, which it seems like is the goal in some way, shape, or form.
Nick, can I address part of your comment or question?
Yes, I mean,
So this is a text amendment that permits the use to exist. It doesn't permit the project itself. So like we've had in other conversations, they'll be back for a conditional use hearing and a land development plan process where those issues of dumpsters, parking, landscaping, access, and all of that would be very considered in the project itself. Township and public comment would be available then at that time on the specific project that would be presented.
And that would have special attention.
Yes.
So like the adaptive reuse should maybe have some sort of language in it that protects. I just don't want to see the streetscape plan, all these sidewalks, 10 foot, all this become this highway for the homeless, be able to panhandling, et cetera. So I just don't want to see progress for this, for the sake of progress, going from maybe a couple dozen families or homeless people to up to 50 units. If that makes sense. So
Yeah, and I think this is, we're trying to reduce the number of homeless people by giving them homes. And currently these properties, as a hotel, there's people in and out of anywhere, who knows what's in there. So you have these are existing buildings which are not probably transit needs, pretty much more control on there than what exists right now. And said details will come out every year. And the township has other regulations dealing with, dumpsters and traffic, those type of things, all the general zoning stuff still applies. That apply to, any other use in the township.
So it's important that you hear that, Nick, that what Randy was saying is, all this text amendment is saying is, okay, this use can exist. Now, guess what? County Housing and Redevelopment Authority, you have to follow all the same codes and, laws and regulations required of any other use that's there. So,
here's my point, just for consideration for the board, is that these are different people. We're hotel people versus in what is our tourism area housing versus Cocalico Creek, for example. That hotel was put into new retail space. So just for your consideration, thank you. Again, I'm not against the project in any way, shape, or form. I want to see less of that scary stuff. I don't think anyone likes seeing panhandlers and the tents. On my way here, I saw 2 people sleeping on the side of the road. So I want the homeless to have the healthy seats. It's an awesome program. I hope supervisors donate to them often. So thank you for the consideration. And so I'll be
A lot of, so to say it, that's their house.
This is an example. It's out from industrial standpoint or the tourism, there's cities where retail actually leaves as a result of theft and blight and.
Yeah, we give you another example. When we worked with the township on allowing longer stays during the moratorium, we actually have data that showed that the properties that we were involved with that had supports were not the same people that were causing all the issues that Tanger and the other outlets were complaining about. We actually worked with the police to determine that the folks that we were helping were a completely different population than those who were causing all the issues. So it just shows that hopefully we can keep working on this and provide the support so that because the sports do work.
Thank you, Lancaster County, for helping us with that. I'm happy to hear that things are and the boys them too. Sounds like you're gonna be taking care of. Help them. To keep our city safe.
I think the key is the Lancaster County Homeless Coalition, as Justin said, is an organization of multiple nonprofit organizations within the county, all working together for those kinds of issues, but having local ownership, who knows how to operate, manage, etc., as opposed to absentee ownership, makes a huge difference in the population that stays in the building.
Thank you for the time, and the management is, I think it was understated in the newspaper articles, and apologize for our ignorance, but the management I think is on my rate. Thank you for considering.
Thank you, Nick. Lee, I didn't check. There's nobody on Zoom.
I mean, I guess just kind of following a little bit what you're saying, I guess I'm very supportive of this, but I guess my only hesitation is that, and I don't think the reality is it's going to happen, but like half of the hotels in East Lampeter Township are going to be not hotels anymore.
You have this the market driven too.
So you're not going to be buying all these.
We have resources.
Not buying.
To officials. Solid. And, you know, part of me sees other non, she's like, but I think example. The hotel here is making a profit, it's gonna, so there, and we can't buy. What it's praised for, so there's gonna be a challenges to get a second one going, but.
And if we
we're
limit,
starting with one.
then that would be a concern for you. But it'll be a,
The part is that just that, Justin, it just bears repeating. There's a market dynamic here that isn't gonna drive all these hotels in this direction. But there's also just a financial reality is the taxpayers, the state, local, state, federal, all the programs, they can't begin to buy 18 hotel properties at $2.5 million to $6.5 million a piece and convert them. It's just not feasible.
A private entity could choose to though, correct?
What's that?
This opens it up to private as well, so a private entity could come in and buy, for example, the Red Root,
No, the text amendment.
Text amendment's very clear about that.
only Lancaster County.
We're an affiliate nonprofit that provides services.
Nonprofit that provides those services.
Or it doesn't even have to be affiliated to us, just a agency that we work with that provides.
So I could find a bunch of private investors that would want to come in, put the money into the properties that this is going to take and put them to code at what they're going to take and then charge the rents that they're going to do. I would, Nick, bring them on, line them up. I'll sell them 18. That's
That's just
hard.
talking good for the community and the businesses around. I wouldn't,
It's not-
it's hard to put the toothpaste back in the tube as this is.
Justin knows this, and I know from my experience, it can take 4 to 5 years to finance a 60-unit project. And then to
21
maintain,
different sources of data.
maintain that property over the life cycle of the building, and the leases are a whole nother issue, so.
And I'll just add, like, but this creates an opportunity for the county at half the cost, maybe even a third of the cost, depending on how much renovation costs are needed to get it to go. So that's a win too. We're maximizing the resources we're getting state and federal to address the issue this way.
To Nick as well. This use, if this is adopted, it's conditional use, not by. So as Randy mentioned, it still will be under scrutiny. If there's some magical way that every hotel is starting to turn into these projects, each use will still have to come before the board. That could be considered, if there is, we're losing a lot of hotels in this type of use. That's something that looked at.
I'll share with my neighbors and for what it's worth in your future presentations. Hammering in on that safety and management might help the public swallow that fright that I was also had from the Lancaster newspaper as well. Thank you. Everyone.
Any other comments? Hearing none, before us is a recommendation to the Township Board of Supervisors to approve the zoning text amendment submitted by Lancaster County Housing Redevelopment Authorities to allow the adaptive use of hotels as a multifamily dwelling in the C1 and C2 zoning districts.
C3. Yep, right. I was pausing, really, just to make sure it's C2 correct that.
And that's.
Is that a motion?
No.
I'm just gonna say so. I'll make a motion that we recommend that the Board of Supervisors adopt the text amendment for 2026-17 for the Lancaster County Housing Redevelopment Authorities to allow adaptive reuse of hotels as multi-family dwelling.
There's a motion, is there is a second? Any further conversation? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Thank you for your time, Tony.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. I have, think of the public hearing is
August 17th, correct?
Yeah, Monday at 5 p.m.
August 17th, by the supervisor.
17th.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have no briefing items. Our other item of business today is our And then final review of the draft 2026 Township Comprehensive Plan. And into the Board of Supervisors for adoption. And well, introduce yourself. And tell us anything you want to tell us, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Okay, great. Good evening. I'm Dean Severson of HRG. I've been with the township to create the comprehensive plan. Here before you in January, and we've been busy since then. But before I get into that, let me just go a little brief background on what the plan is, how we got to where we're at. We worked with the steering committee, with the public, received a lot of input all through last year, all through 2025. We had a number of meetings with the steering committee. We've had a few different opportunities for public input. We had one public survey which didn't go too well, but another public survey which I think we got a significant amount of input from. So kind of going through some of the things that we've had from the top plan. Again, these are ones which we're pretty much identified before we started. Balanced growth, maintaining the urban village growth boundaries, directing new housing businesses to where you have existing infrastructure and promote reinvestment. Ag preservation obviously is a key issue, always has been in East Lampeter Township. Economic development, supporting the township's economic base by redevelopment. Encouraging integrated business campuses, mixed-use development, adaptive reuse. We're also looking at multimodal transportation, connected transportation networks, sidewalks, bike lanes, multi-use trails, public transit that connects jobs to housing neighborhoods, park and rec opportunities, a robust system of trails, green spaces that support rec, environmental education, and community wellness, supporting natural cultural heritage opportunities in the township, identifying ag landscapes, water, natural resources, built environment, and again, integrating it into the growth area for future development. One of the advantages that I had in doing this plan, which was also a bit of a challenge, was it's one I don't usually face when working with municipalities, is there was the extent of planning that was done before I came on board. So again, there was a streetscapes plan, Bridgeport plan, housing study was done in 2024, the Conestoga Valley Parks and Rec plan. We also looked at the township's official map. We looked at a number of documents. So the goal here wasn't to start from scratch, but it was more to incorporate all of these planning documents, incorporate all the recommendations that have taken place, bring them together, find common themes, try to find some recommendations that cross over all of these themes and finding kind of a unifying pattern in all of these plan segments and recommendations. So again, it was a unique challenge, and I think it was one that we really appreciated. As I mentioned, we had a visual preference survey, which we did get a lot of. We also had a community meeting last year in July, community park, community survey. We had a fire company survey. We had a number of key person interviews. We interviewed township staff, folks from high associates, Lancaster County Planning, tried to get as much in as possibly could. And we also had a very good steering committee, which was extremely helpful, gave us a lot of great recommendations. So that's kind of where we got to in January. Just passed out here to give you an idea. Starting in January from when I last saw you, kind of give you an update of what you've been doing since then. Dick has been very good at providing a lot of information from staff, and also I've got comments from the planning commission and others. So just to kind of go through, I don't want to, item by item, and kind of give you a summation of the things that we've received since then. Give you an idea of what the changes are to the comprehensive plan. Again, a number of these have been typo, grammatical. Obviously, we still have a few more typos we need to take care of, but there are some of the bigger ones that I wanted to kind of highlight
So we heard quite a bit, but we need to improve the mapping within the plan. Hopefully that is been taken care of. Also, I think that there is, you'll see this a little bit later in terms of mapping this, because we started the plan, putting together information probably back in 2024. Some of the existing land use information, some of the map was outdated. So we had to go back into the county GIS system, try to update all of our existing land use information to make sure that all of that was correct. Just kind of touch on some of the things that we had. Let's see, one of the ones under the information we had on February 2nd, advantages and disadvantages for fire company mergers. There was quite a bit of information that we received about the fire companies. Again, we did some nice surveying of the fire companies and seeing what the future needs are. We revised those recommendations quite a bit in trying to see what it is that the comprehensive plan should recommend. Everything, we looked at everything from, company mergers to fire tax, a variety of different recommendations for the township to take a look at. We got the new also received an updated photo for the cover, so it doesn't look like a Parks and Rec plan. Starting in May, we received a number of comments from the township staff. And I think a lot of these were probably very good comments. One was to change the order of the plan themes based on priority. I think Tara had some recommendations on which ones should be listed in terms of prioritization. Lighting average monthly housing cost in East Lampeter Township. One of the recommendations, the third bullet was again, removing some of the recommendations by the Township Planning Commission in 2025. One of the themes that came throughout, we had a number of recommendations from the planning commissions. I think they come together in 2020, 2025, saying that when you update comprehensive plans, you should provide X, Y, Z. I included those in the original draft. The comment was, it's a little bit overkill, it's a little bit repetitive. May not necessarily be needed because we've addressed a number of these issues. A number of the other topics that we had was, in particular, some of the recommendations from the housing study. There's quite a few comments saying a lot of that was kind of overkill. We know the information. Let's kind of pare it down to what is really important to bring forward into the comp plan. That's also a great recommendation. There was also comments about sidewalks, complete streets, a lot of information about the village. Because the village had to go back to the Conestoga Valley comprehensive plan 20 plus years ago. There wasn't a lot of changes within that village strategy from this plan in terms of land uses and those types of things. For the most part, the villages have kind of remained the same in a lot of ways. We wanted to focus on this comp plan was because you have such a mix of residential and non-residential uses, you have a lot of people walking, you've got a lot of these are heavy corridors going through these areas. We need to do a better job taking a look at complete streets and other options that we can possibly take a look at for people in the villages to provide safe, non-motorized transportation options. So that was one of the things that we wanted to recommend in here as well. We also had a number of recommendations on the Lancaster Heritage Path and some of the other pathways or trails within the township, both existing and proposed, in terms of their usage, whether they're bike ped, whether they're equestrian or other type of multi-use. One of the things I also noted was the Lincoln Highway East enhancements also include bike buggy lanes. There was a recommendation, a second here on official maps. That's been adopted by the township, so that was taken out. So again, a lot of these recommendations we've looked at here, we want to make sure that we've included all of these within the plan. Jump forward maybe a little bit to the comments in June 15 and recommendation comments about sidewalks in all village districts. We had some additional comments about, say, for instance, Smoketown, the recommendations needed there. We also looked at, we noted the acres of vacant land. Some of that information, again, was the updating with the plan for the existing land use information that we got from the county. We wanted to make sure that that was updated.
So the note from 615, page 18, I guess I missed that. It was a parcel off of Hartman Bridge Road, Eastbrook Road. It was mixed use and it was ag or something. I must have missed that. It doesn't sound familiar to me. Changed? Is it changed now? Yeah.
It was a large parcel that's ag, and on the map, it's labeled as mixed use. I think it still is.
I guess still is.
Yeah.
You pointed it out, but if it is, just make sure it's addressed, or we're gonna be.
The one we had, which was a major mistake, was Dutch Wonderland, which was mixed use.
Private open spaces.
Yeah, that was There was some weird land use classifications, with the county's GIS too. We're quite running with what the existing use is.
I think some of that all up. Greenfield North, all of that, we made so much changes in the process from the last time to this time, some of it's just not being caught.
What I can do too, Jacob, I'll make myself a note is I'll provide staff, I'll send over a large 24 by 36 existing land use and future land use maps and make sure that you can have something which you can really dig into.
Okay, yeah, and we'll make sure that's all.
Yeah.
Put forward, things have been built there in the past 3 years already, out of date, so.
Yeah. We also had additional comments about the level of support that the county, or that the township provides to the fire companies, again, with some of the information that we had there. To making sure that we can the spouse does in terms of fire company support. And let's see. Kind of a wrap up a little bit, going to reviews. We had additional comments from the township, which were primarily typos. June 29th. Jacob said that the township sent me an email saying that the township will resend the draft plan to the neighboring municipality to kind of restart the MPC review process. The same day, actually, I forwarded the draft plan to Lancaster County Plan for their second review as well. I haven't received a date. Have you received one, Jacob, for when they're going to be hearing?
Yeah, so it's gonna be, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's gonna end up being this month or beginning of September.
Good.
When they'll have
That's good.
we'll probably, if this is correct. Just make sure that county's had time to give us comments.
I was a little afraid that coming in the end of June, I didn't want them to hold off until the end of September. So that's good.
You submitted that, and actually I submitted for their text, and then probably the worst timing for when we get comments from the county, so. That's why there's no actually comments from the county from the text amendment that was here and for this, because the deadline it was submitted past their review deadline for the planning commission for the county, so.
County is going through their review of it.
Yeah. Which they reviewed, they had comments from the previous draft. Substantial changes, honestly, other than just fixing some of the typos, I think it's not that. They last reviewed it now. Enough to say that I could say enough where if something to be considered substantial changes. So we can just-
So any adjustments to the urban growth boundary, Jacob, are pulling in grandfathered parcels? We're not sending a message out to the public that East Lampeter is going through the comprehensive plan update and we're making some significant change to the urban growth boundary.
This has no recommendations for any substantial changes to that. And I think that's part of the theme of this comp plan is allowing for more adaptive development where things are built. That's kind of a theme in how they studied in previous plans to help preserve the agriculture and not to have to expand those boundaries. I think there was the minor changes that were already agreed on
You worked with the county.
previously. So there is no new changes from when that.
Announced.
I think that included like part of like CV, the new CV middle school and high school, a few other parcels that were already kind of discussed.
Just sort of carving into it parcels that were developed.
Yeah.
You guys adopted those, this year, correct? Was it the end of last
It was
year?
the end of last year. I can't remember the exact date, but
The ones that you agreed with, the county? So again, without going through, all the items, I just wanted to open up and see if there's any additional comments, questions, anything that we can work on between now and when we come to see the board.
I'll give my list of typos to Jacob. You can pass them on. Sorry, that's just my personality. Look for those. I do have a couple questions. So, on page 109 of the draft, I noticed in their summary here that the rental inspection program recommendation was removed. Just curious, what was the conversation about removing that?
so that comment actually came from township because the board of supervisors, there was no act.
This covers what, how many years? 10 years? Next 10 years?
10 and 20.
I was disappointed, I'm just going on the record to say I was disappointed to see that recommendation was removed. I don't think it needs to be in place next year. But considering that the comp plan covers 10 to 20 years and it was mentioned in the housing study, and we have this comment even tonight about properties. I would like to see a reconsideration of that, removing that recommendation. On page 111, I was glad to see that you listed Smoke Town Bridgeport for the sidewalk survey. So that's a comment that the planning commission had made back in January. My one comment is it doesn't do anything other than that. So the actions are all listed related to Saldersburg and Rocks Road. At a minimum, I think perhaps a recommendation that there are actions taken once those surveys are complete to prioritize the gaps of those sidewalks from a planning perspective. Where are the most important places to fill those gaps? I know they're not going to be all filled just because of the cost, but part of the recommendation now that you've included those three villages, I think would be to see something here that moves that forward. Of just doing a survey doesn't present any solution to the survey. So just something to consider. I'll make a comment I made the last time, the infrastructure section. I still don't get why there's only two small comments there. Include additional service and accommodate growth. If you look through the comprehensive plan, there's infrastructure throughout the plan. Sidewalks are infrastructure. We talk about roadways throughout. So even if there's a reference that puts people back to those sections where infrastructure was discussed, it just looks to me like a gaping error to a comprehensive plan that there's two little lines.
That's interesting.
on infrastructure.
I didn't read it that way, Randy, but because
Because it's.
I looked at the whole plan, but it does kind of jump out as though our interest in infrastructure is to ensure that it's there.
And this chapter is implementing the vision. And yet, is that the vision, just accommodate growth and include additional service? I found that a little bit lacking for a comprehensive plan. Those are my comments. Any questions or comments?
Jacob, I would, so on both items that have been brought up, I would endorse and want you to communicate to the board of supervisors the same. The rental inspection process. The prior board waited very seriously. And we had 2 meetings of standing room only. And so we backed down. But I kid you not, within that next year, there were people sitting in this room asking, why don't we enforce and have some way of making sure these properties are staying this way? And the board said, because your neighbors don't want that. They told us they didn't want it. The neighborhood that sits between Millport Road and Lincoln Highway. That's just east of Bridgeport. That's been there all of Randy's life, at least. And there are people here that were just aghast that we weren't taking care of the problems that they were seeing, and people in their 70s and their 80s who've owned their house for 50 years, and they'd say, this house down the street, and I can't believe it, and they've got ladders, and then they'd come in with pictures. They'd show us pictures. And again, we'd say, are you filing a complaint? If you're filing a complaint, you can go onto the website, you can do it anonymously. Well, then people heard that we were allowing that to be done anonymously, and they were furious. I mean, you got to be kidding me. My neighbor's going to be able to complain about my property. I don't know that he's complaining. That's not fair. And they said, well, that's actually constitutionally correct. So, I guess I would probably concur with Randy that, in the next 10 years, it really is time for East Lampeter Township to revisit that issue, bring it up to the public, and bring it up with pretty significant evidence that says this is what not inspecting these properties, blighted properties, rental, this is what it's doing to the community. Because I don't think people see the whole picture. They see one thing for themselves. So I concur with that, Randy. I've heard what you said in comment. Infrastructure was definitely one, but you had a second one, right?
The sidewalks that.
The gaps, yeah.
Step of recommendation to move forward following the survey. At least to prioritize where the gaps will be filled.
Yeah.
From a pedestrian safety perspective.
Yeah. We would often have people who would show up at the Board of Supervisors meeting, and they would be presenting, and we'd say, do you know that you're now coming back and it's time to look at the sidewalk? It was grandfathered in. You had a waiver, or the previous property owner had a waiver. We gave a waiver in 1999 or 2005, and it's now back up. So we need you to put that in. Oh my gosh, what do you? Oh, it's impossible. I just can't. There's no way. We'd say, oh, it's actually waived on the previous property. You purchased the property that was out there, whether you knew it or not. You should have done your due diligence. And we want it done. We were trying to fill the gaps, Randy, as you say. I know we still were giving waivers. We were allowing it. Somebody in the middle of 340, nothing east, there was nothing west, would say, all right, listen, we're going to have, and then we would go out of our way for 10 years to say to the person, before you leave, just so you know, do you realize what we just did? We did not say you don't have to put it in. If the Board of Supervisors ever decides they want to call all these waivers to fill the gaps, you're going to have to pay for that. Oh yeah, I'm good to go. So, I think there's a point, Randy, of saying at some point, Look, in the villages, maybe, there's a couple of gaps. Okay, Board of Supervisors, can we prioritize that in our infrastructure planning? Our cap budgets? We gotta be putting in place the means to make some of those happen. Doesn't have to fall on the property owner. It could fall on the community. But we ought to be saying, hey, it's time to start looking at some of these gaps that exist where there's sidewalks over there by John's office and by Randy's house. There's nothing here. Okay, municipality, can you come in? You're gonna have to pay for it, but fill that gap, and now we've got a pedestrian walkway.
Yes. At least you have an advantage that you've got a record of the waivers and you've got an idea of that, because I worked with a municipality in Lancaster County, I won't mention, but they got to the point of saying, I think we waived that, and we'll count on the memory of the guy who's been there the longest on the plan commission. I think we did that on that plan in 1999. And it was hard to go back and find the records of where those waivers were. So, but yeah, the next step is, or else the thing within a residential neighborhood, if you got a tree uprooting a chunk of a sidewalk, you're gonna have to go assess that neighbor and say, we're sorry, but you're gonna have to replace 3 squares. That becomes difficult too.
For me, the focus is those villages.
Yeah.
We've had land development plans for Birmingham where we have talked as a commission about not requiring sidewalks when it's a pedestrian zone. I mean,
You see people walking on 340.
Yeah, that's.
Is there ever a discussion to look at those like deferral agreements that, like, to figure out, are there any deferral agreements that we entered into that we want to call them on it and say, you need to put your sidewalk in?
I think it would definitely come up if someone developed something next to a place.
Yeah.
There's deferral agreements in place.
Okay.
So, for example, get Lancaster Archery over there. They have some deferral agreements on one portion. Part of that deferral agreement, if you have development to the west. So if there's ever a plan that comes into the west, and guess what? We're gonna pull that deferral agreement from the
Yeah.
past.
Just curious, like how often that actually happens. Like how often do they remember, like, oh, that property does have a deferral
And
agreement?
then the challenge is it's
Yeah.
gonna happen, could happen 15, 20 years later.
So we don't recommend waivers, we recommend deferral.
It's during the development process. That's when it comes up, Sarah.
What we do is we make people record those, not to rely on, not saying we have bad record keeping,
Yeah.
but 20, 30 years can go by. If it's recorded, it's permanent. It can be found associated with the property.
But if you have a deferral agreement, it doesn't have to be in connection with the redevelopment of that property. Like you can still make them do it. Even if like you said, a property next door gets developed, if there's, the neighbor has a deferral agreement, you can make them put their sidewalk in. But I'm just wondering, it's probably not like making the property owner happy if you're doing that, but maybe they were not the one who entered into it, even though it still binds their property, but.
So to that point, now back to your 2 bullet points on infrastructure. So, in 23, we had, failing, is everyone familiar with the OLDS system? So the state developed the OLDS, the on-lot disposal systems, the OLDS. And we had 500, do you know, Jacob? There's 500 parcels in East Lapeer Township that are all on lot. How many are failing? Just go dip your foot in Mill Creek and you'll find out. So in 23, we had several that were failing on the Strasburg Pike. And so we had a meeting and we said, look, we're going to invite you, but there are probably from my property where the ends up to Mill Spring Road, and there are probably 15 properties or 20 properties. And it was packed, they were all here. And we said, look, this is the time. We're going to pay for it. The sewer authority is going to pay for it. The Board of Supervisors supports this. We're going to put the infrastructure in place. But you're going to need to participate, and you're going to need to help pay for the revolt with pitchforks and torches out there. And so we backed down. But we looked at people in the face and we said, just so you know, when yours fails, or if you go to sell and the purchaser demands that this be taken care of, it's going to cost you that much more to tap into this. and the residents walked away from it. So, getting infrastructure, is tough. And in a community that has tremendous agriculture, Dean, you're exactly right. We've been fantastic for 50 years of managing that through zoning. But we're part of the metro area on the northeast, northwest part of the township. And, if we put our heads in the sand and don't pay attention to the infrastructure, it just comes back to bite you. So I don't know how to make that infrastructure portion better, but I'm waiting on that.
Yeah, it can be easily done, in my opinion, without creating a massive narrative by just, referencing sections that people can go back to when they see infrastructure. I thought I remember reading something about improving a roadway here, but how do they get back to that? Or add it to the infrastructure section, one or the other. But for me, it's a perspective thing. It just doesn't look like we've thought about infrastructure.
We did this already, incorporating comments from the planning commission. Just your opinion, I'll ask you folks as well. Should I incorporate those comments myself? Or do you want to send them to the board and have the board incorporate, or?
We would be sending to the board.
I'm not sure if I can.
The more substantial, I think, comments would be like, especially like including like the rental inspection thing as a. Because and it's controversial in some ways just because of resources. You do it and then, but it's a long time.
I know
So,
the cost of doing
yes.
Yeah, the more specificity you have in the recommendation to the board would be great.
I think like general typo comments, I'll get a list together. I have a few more I'll hold back, but get them together and then I'll send up those to you. And then I think the bigger.
Yeah, I'll be quick. It's just,
What I can do is when I make those changes. Or that copy to PC if you can.
Fingers crossed if you don't have to send it out again, but we'll see. If you do, it's okay.
so first of all, I concur with both the infrastructure and the rental inspection that was spoken previously, but a couple things I just wanted to mention that I noticed going through this is, and I wasn't at that first meeting for the planning commission when we talked about it. But page 32, I feel like this is kind of more of a maybe typo. It seems like there should be some content or this Whitmer existing land use. It's the bottom of page 32. There's Whitmer existing land use. I think that like the plan maybe should be under that.
That's really how it fits.
Oh.
It's a title to the map. This is a title to that map.
Yeah, but it didn't show. Did it just not print right?
Yeah,
It just didn't print.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't print right.
I looked at the form, so I realized I thought I missed something.
And then page 67, where they talk about safe connections from residential areas to schools. Just curious, it says township is pursuing funding for school crosswalks. I'm guessing that's Fritz. Is that right, Jacob? Do you know? One. It is one. And then I was a little confused about like this walking school bus situation. Just where that came from. I mean, it's an interesting.
Yeah, it came up in one of the steering committee meetings, and I think it might have been Tara that brought it up. I can't remember.
So.
At least one of the schools that they have where, you basically bring all the kids together and they walk together as like a school bus.
Yeah.
To the school.
Okay, but that's not, I just want to make sure that that's meaning you're not going to do that instead of the crosswalks.
Right, it'd be another.
In addition to the crosswalks.
Let's see.
Okay. What else here? 114. I was really happy to see about, like, kind of looking into the indoor recreational facility and a library. I think those would be a really great thing. There used to be a library in Leola, I think, that is no longer there. So I loved that recommendation. The one question I had is it's under 114C action. It said East Lampeter Township has signed an agreement with CV School District for the use of their facilities for indoor recreational programming. So is that like the park programming? Is that what that's referring to?
It would be just being able to use their facilities.
Okay.
That can be kind of broad, whether it be taking over, like, for example, the old Smoketown Elementary is a recreation center, or just renting the facilities.
Okay.
We have a recreation program now where we
Yeah.
use, we have karaoke in here, or we use our park, so having some kind of agreement using their space potentially.
Okay. And there's references a couple of places about potentially using that old Smoketown building for like township purposes at some point. So is that part of that agreement, or is that?
Could be a part of a potential agreement.
Okay, but this is not like, it seems like there's a current agreement that they signed and everything.
See if I can
You
see.
know what I mean?
I seem to recall seeing a school board meeting summary where there is some kind of an agreement between the township and the school district to use facilities. I don't know how specific it is, but you might want to check that.
Yeah, that might need clarifications. I think, yeah, there is some kind of agreement currently.
Yeah.
These things.
Maybe it's for like what the park programs and things like if there's, rain or, maybe. The other thing just a general, I've seen, I don't know exactly where this was in here, but they talked about being below benchmark for parks, like park areas, that we don't have as much park area as, whatever benchmark that was. And I didn't really see any recommendations to expand parks other than that addition to Flory Park that was referenced in here. And I'm just curious, like, were there discussions about potentially trying to acquire more park areas?
There is reference to the Gibbons Park.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, the Flory thing, right? Is that near Flory?
So that's actually the Knowles Mill right off Old Philadelphia Pikes. That's
Before you go into Bird in Hand, Sarah,
Okay.
across over Mill Creek, we purchased the old Knowles Mill house.
Oh, yeah.
15 acres there. I don't remember either, Sarah, now that you say that. So in the official map, Jacob, there is a proposed future park over, Creek Hill and Harvey Heller's farm.
Yeah, it's at the corner of Creek Hill and Willow.
Harvey Heller's farm, yeah.
That's
Creek,
also, so it's called out on the comprehensive plan as either potential future park or an area of housing development. It's
That-
called out.
so, thanks, John, I couldn't say that. I just know in the official map, we had been talking about that for years. That we rather have park there in that part of the township, because we looked at the township and said, where isn't there a park?
And I think that's kind of like thinking park wise, to me, I live over in that area, and as does John, and there's just not parks. There's no open space parks in that area.
So reference to the comprehensive park and recreation plan that was just adopted, and there may be recommendations in there
Mhm.
for additional park recreational areas within a township. I don't recall specifically, but
Yeah, I guess I just felt like it calls out that we're below benchmark, but I didn't really see a recommendation that we're like looking to expand.
Establish a.
Yeah.
I will tell you, sir, to that point, now that you say that, John. The township, I believe. Correct, I think this is correct, my last year or so, we actually opposed efforts to put that Harvey Heller farm into ag preserve because of its locale within the urban growth area and because of the potential for it to develop and the park. Like, there was this whole conversation about how we needed to make sure that that was preserved for future development with the park. But I think you're right. We could be more intentional about calling out. The township needs to locate and begin the process of putting a park in that part of the township.
To that end, actually, that might actually be worth making a specific comment on to the Board of Supervisors, because I don't have the plan in front of me. I forgot it at home. But I believe that I saw is a little bit of a discrepancy where it's not clear what that what that Heller farm is, the idea of its future is, because it's called out in one area as a potential future park site, but it's called out in a different area as potentially an area of housing development. And to Sarah's point, there is no, we both live near to that area. There is no park in that area of the township. And that would be an area, that would certainly be an area where it'd be worth clarifying that, hey, maybe this is a spot where we can call out an area for potential park location. Because it's not clear in the document, I guess is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only two parks that are specifically mentioned in here, Gibbons and the additional acreage to Flory.
It's near existing housings, it'd be anyway, useful.
Good. Why it's important to have representatives from different parts of the township.
To be revised with that other location.
I do also agree that it makes sense to clarify that the sidewalks in the village areas where there's gaps in existing sidewalk networks would be important to specify, because it's similar to the rental inspection program where you're going to mention this thing and you're going to get a whole crowd of people that think it applies to them. And anytime the township tries to go in and force private landowners to do something, I mean, you're never going to get, it's never going to go. Well, I think it's worth picking battles and being as specific as possible as to where we're looking to do that. See how many deferral agreements we have. And I also agree that if we're going to undertake that type of measure, you're not going to be able to do it one by one. You're going to have to do it in mass.
We're just trying to find something.
You mean, you just didn't, look at this. I mean, they're just giving you all kinds of stuff.
There's a statement in here from the draft, the original draft, which page 9, where it's for the recommendations under the comprehensive parks. It's a memorandum of understanding between the township and the school district. That was signed on August 12th of 2024. I think the township should work with the district representative for access to facilities, including providing liability insurance, abide by the district's usage policies. So it's an MOU, not an. You just want to change the word.
What page was that on?
It's page 90 of the original draft. But it's on the page. It has the.
This one, here we go.
Page 90, I'll find it. The MOU.
It's right here. Yeah, at the top of 94. The first, second bullet, at the top of 94.
So then you probably want to change 114 to just saying they signed an agreement. I mean, it's a memorandum of agreement. But just kind of seems like it's more robust than just a memorandum of agreement. So.
Any other comments?
I could put public comment. I've been coming for a year or so to you guys and supervisors even longer. This comprehensive plan really shed a lot of light for me. I'm very happy for it. I don't want to get too much into the title. It sounds like Randy and Jacob have it covered. The only thing that didn't hear was on 33, 35, and 38 of the map, the key probably don't match. It was a little, maybe on the newest draft, it's not like this, but I had to recheck a couple of times because village general, village residential don't match the key. Very minor maybe. And then it was pointed out in the recommendations of the park, right around 95, about the old Mill House. The township supervisors, I think it was a month or so ago, voted to sell that property. Does that need to be reflected or stated in the comprehensive plan?
Not that they didn't, they just sold the house. Is that correct, Jacob?
Not sold, but they're
They're choosing to sell it and it's referenced an education center.
Oh, oh, gosh.
Ogan Comprehensive Plan, so that's just because when they sell it, it's gone, it's not necessary in the comprehensive plan, or it could just exist and not be a thing.
You got that, Jacob?
You know, put,
Sorry.
95,
And that was probably one of the previous grants. Well, as long as it's.
I don't have the exact. number. On the page. Yeah, to be a educational facility for milling and potential office for recreation.
Thank you for, that's great, yeah, because
Together the villages and zoning was, can't really speak, so thank you for all your, everyone, and I've been quiet on all my votes on one thing, but thank you for hearing me out tonight.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate your comments.
Thanks.
We can have public comment.
Use all. Tribute and probably to Steve, so thank you.
Go start talking to your neighbors and get that.
Better neighbors.
Any other? Do you want a recommendation from us?
yeah, that'd be a recommendation, and, I mean, you have it with
Comments.
the comments, to be incorporated. I mean, I think you noted like a priority, I think, the kind of this more substantial would be to consider the rental inspection. And then some comments regarding the infrastructure with sidewalk gaps in the village. Is there anything else like, I know the comments like Nick mentioned and some of the, I guess more like.
Those are the three policy related and perhaps Sarah's comment about the only two parks listed.
Yeah.
So
Yes, I
maybe-
think those are kind of a little more substantial that could probably be called out and then address more like just general typos.
I don't know. Did I miss any comment made in the comp plan to actually enforcing that piece of state regulation? It's the olds. It's, what would they called it? The on-lot disposal systems. I mean, it's probably been 10 years. We were supposed to be implementing that and we did not.
Is that in here? Do they talk about
I
this?
think it was a reference, but there wasn't much.
Yeah.
Has township adopted, trying to go back in my memory, mandatory pumping?
We did. Yes, we did. And I think in fact, there's a camera down you gotta put in there or something. I forget what the whole thing is, but back to, keep going back to the infrastructure portion, Randy. Back to Randy's infrastructure portion, Dean. I think you could just, keep adding stuff to it that says, hey, olds, hey, parks, hey, sidewalks,
Yeah.
We're new, Randy.
Open your mic. That is too long. Okay, so it would be a motion to the Board of Supervisors to consider adoption of the comprehensive plan as presented with 4 specific comments. One, an additional recommendation related to sidewalks after following the survey. 2, related to new park development within the township. 3, related to the on-lot disposal systems to begin enforcement of that, proper enforcement of that. And 4, the rental housing inspection program. Not that it needs to be implemented next year, but it needs to remain within the comprehensive plan.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion by Sarah and a second by John Thompson. Any further comment from the board? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
So moved. Thank you. 17.
Conversation.